What's up YouTube, Kristo here, and I've got another video for you. I want to do something a little bit different, but still familiar. I've gotten kind of bored of just doing review after review after review, so I'm going to break it up with an old favorite of mine, Hypebuster. Basically, I'm going to take fragrances that are or were fairly recently hyped up in the fragrance community, especially YouTube and the connected Facebook groups, and I'm going to kind of put in my counter opinion and say what the faults are in my opinion, and why they maybe aren't as amazing or much of a masterpiece as many people make them out to be. This isn't meant to be like a sly little jab at anyone who loves them or anyone who's famous for hyping them up on YouTube or Facebook or whatever. It's just an alternate side or an alternate opinion to hugely popular or cult favorite fragrances. I firmly believe that if you have any reviewing arena, you can't just have positive reviews. Then it just turns into kind of like hype and brainwash where no one's allowed to have a negative opinion, and I'm not into that at all. I think anyone who puts any product out in the public needs to be scrutinized or needs to be criticized, where they deserve it as well. I'm not just doing this to be hateful or to be like a fragrance hipster, whatever. There's some really great scents in here, some that I really enjoy a lot, but there's negative sides that perhaps don't really get picked up on in reviews when people are just like over the top hyping them nonstop. And that's kind of the whole reason I'm doing this. So these are not necessarily fragrances I own. In fact, I don't think I own any of these. I have samples or have had bottles of numerous bottles in here, but I don't think I own any of them at this time, hence me pulling names out of a hat. So I've got, I don't know, maybe about 10 in here, 10 names written on paper. So I'm gonna drop them in the hat, shake it up, pull one out, and I'm gonna talk about what isn't so great about it, and just talk about the hype and the legend around it. So not meant to be any jabs at anyone who's famous for hyping these up or anyone who loves them or whatever. It's my opinion and I'm entitled to that. So keep that in mind. So let's get into it. First one up is, oh my, big one right off the bat. I'm going to show it to you, but you're probably not even going to pick it up. This is Xerjoff's Neo. This is something I actually have mentioned, not recently, but in the past. I've mentioned this a few times, just in terms of how much I want to try it. I mentioned loving bergamot fragrances a long time ago on my channel, and I had numerous people tell me that Neo has one of the best bergamot notes in the business, and just like the kind of the high-end level, like the supreme quality and luxury of Xerjoff, or however it's pronounced. I wanted to try it so bad for so long. I actually even ordered samples when I made a purchase from Lucky Scent, and when the order came, they didn't have it, so I got something else. It was only about maybe 10 months ago, maybe even longer, 12 months ago, that I finally got to try it, and I was so underwhelmed by it. It's like, okay, it's nice, but that's it. There's nothing that draws me to it. There's nothing that really interests me. It is like a nice fragrance that has citrus elements to it. I've tried it numerous times on paper, on skin, and every time I'm just so underwhelmed. It is definitely on the more affordable side of the Xerjoff fragrances. It's still not cheap, but it's just so boring and underwhelming, and I get that a lot from a lot of Xerjoff fragrances. Maybe it's just not me. I want something with more character, something that's more unique. I have no problem with classy, sophisticated fragrances, but just to me, like, most things I've tried from Xerjoff are really big letdowns, and Neo is the biggest letdown to me because it was something I really had high hopes for and wanted to try for like literally years, like 3 or 4 years. I was desperate to try Neo, finally got to try it, and I was just so unimpressed with it. It was just like, wow, I've waited this long, and it's so boring. It's so uninteresting. There's no character, there's no personality. It's a flashy bottle that's meant to be high-end and exclusive and stuff. And to me, it needs to be more than flashy packaging. Unfortunately, it's a big dud for me. It's nice. If it was a third the price, I might buy a bottle, but even then, it's still just, to me, just kind of like a really boring, generic, forgettable fragrance. So there you go, Xerjoff Neo. Okay, so let's see what's next. Okay, pull another one out here. This is, okay, here, mixing it up. We got a designer. Again, you're probably not going to see that, but this is Viktor and Rolf's Spice Bomb, or just Spice Bomb as it says on here. This one, well, by the time I got to try this, it was already kind of at the end of my designer days. This is still really highly loved and coveted in the fragrance community, especially in the online groups, especially with newcomers. They love this. They can't get enough of it. It's really easily available. The marketing is like everywhere, at least where I see in North America, Canada. It's a fairly reputable designer house, like Viktor and Rolf. They don't make cheap fragrances, but unfortunately Spice Bomb has kind of turned into that. It's just such a douchebag bro fragrance. Nowadays, it's just like guys who don't know anything about fragrances except 1 million Acqua di Gio and Spice Bomb. And on top of that, that's not why I dislike it. I find it to be really boring. Again, generic. It smells like a mix of like kind of 3 or 4 somewhat contemporary fragrances to this time. To me, it basically just smells like Viktor and Rolf's Antidote mixed with 1 million, with a few little elements changed around. The opening is kind of spicy, but it's very vague, very cheap smelling, just like spice. There's not really anything that stands out. Maybe it's cardamom, cinnamon or something, but it's really not that well made that you can pick out every little spice in it. And then it just dries down into like this really cheap, kind of sweet, semi-gourmandish scent that's just like so overdone. It's so boring. It's so redundant. There's just nothing to it. It's quite expensive as well, which is another negative side for something to me that smells so cheap and bland and blah. There's just nothing to it. Very little I can say that's good about this. When I finally got to try it, I almost blind bought this a few times online for near retail. And I'm really glad I didn't, because finally when I got a sample, I just sprayed it on. And the first thing that I thought of was like, this smells like 1 million and Antidote mixed together. And I'm sure it's not a coincidence that it smells like Antidote, because Antidote is also from Viktor and Rolf, but totally underwhelmed by Spice Bomb. Not much good I can say about it, to be honest. The bottle's kind of cool, I guess, in a sense, but there you go. Let's see if I can pull something out that I actually have something good to say about. Okay, next one. Okay, you know what? I'm going to put that back because I've already bashed that house. So I'm going to pick a different one just so it doesn't look like I'm singling them out. Okay, another one I can't say much good about. And again, you're probably not going to read it, but that is Memo's African Leather. What a bizarre story Memo is. About a year ago, maybe a little over a year ago, Memo just came out of nowhere and was just everywhere. It was all over Facebook. I couldn't escape it. It was just like every group, whether it be, newbie groups, or whether it be veteran groups, or whether it be like, specialty groups, fragrance lovers that are, this sort of lifestyle or whatever. It's just everywhere. Nonstop Memo. And everybody was just raving about African leather. And I was reading so much about it, by myself, reading up on it and reading so many posts and People were talking about how amazing it is and what a revolutionary house it is. Apparently they've been around for quite a while, which surprised me even more, because they was just like kind of out of nowhere, this kind of mid to high range niche brand is just everywhere online. And just totally by coincidence, I ended up getting a sample, not of African leather, but I got a sample of something, Luxor Oud, which, you know, I had seen mentioned numerous times. I got it and I was like, wow, this is just like sweet candied oud. Totally not my thing at all, but I'll stay optimistic. Lo and behold, much to my surprise, Saks Fifth Avenue opens in Toronto, and they have basically the entire memo line, African leather included. I think every sales assistant we've dealt with there, myself and Eugene, everyone, even some of the same ones twice, will like, this is my favorite from the line, and they'll show us African leather. I actually have a sample of it, and I've tried it every time I've gone there, partially from them pushing it on me, but also me wanting to try it, because this is consistently the one that always gets topped up. The opening is cardamom, ginger, and geranium, I believe, and it dries down into a leather. The opening, I actually wore this to the supermarket about a month ago. It wasn't too hot, but it definitely wasn't cool or anything. It actually made me feel sick. Just something in it, the geranium mixing with the cardamom, actually made me feel nauseous, and I had to wash it off when I got home. And since then, I won't even touch it. Before then, I was like, you know what, I kind of like the cardamom, the kind of sparkling, shiny cardamom in there. But when it mixes with the geranium, and I believe there's ginger in there, it just really, really puts me off. The leather and the dry down is like laughable. When you compare that leather to something of the same price range, it can't compete. Like, it cannot compete with high-end leathers that are, you know, $3, $4, $5 per mil at, you know, 75 or 100 mil. There's just absolutely no way it can compete with them. We were quite surprised. I was quite surprised as well to find out that these are as much as or more than the Guerlain 75 mil exclusives, the Desert series and the L'Art des Maîtres series. And when I compare these, considering that memos are actually even more expensive than a lot of those, the quality between memo and those luxury Guerlain lines is just laughable. Like, I would laugh at someone if they told me that this memo is the same price as Derby or the same price as Rose Nacre. And Derby's 100 mil and it's cheaper as well. If they gave me a test strip of Rose du Desert Nacre or Sange and compared it to this and told me that this was more expensive, I just laugh and say, you're joking. There's no way this is garbage compared to those. But yeah, it's a pretty uninteresting house. They've got nice opening notes if they go well together, but it seems they're more just trying to do things that are weird and unorthodox to kind of get, you know, that patronage. And then the dry downs are just really boring, uninteresting, which is just so common nowadays in that genre of perfume. So let's get at least one more here. Try to get something I like a little bit at least. No, not again. Something awful. Again, probably can't see it, but this is Back to Black by Kilian. And I've not really seen eye to eye with the Kilian house. When it first was like really big on YouTube and they were sending out free samples to people, especially on Facebook and stuff, there were a few that I really liked, but for the most part, the original series they released, I didn't like at all. It was like love, like sniff, it's like, yeah, nothing, boring, bland, generic crap. Liaisons Dangereuses, I was like, again, saying boring, bland, crap, boring, nothing special. Next, Back to Black is like, oh my God, this is awful. It smells like candy baby powder, gross, disgusting. What's next? A Taste of Heaven. I was like, you know what, this is kind of nice. That's a little more up my alley. A Taste of Heaven, that's interesting as well. I kind of like that, but other than that, the house, man, it's just what a joke it's become, what an absolute laughing stock it's become. And people are still buying that garbage up and just like worshiping it at like $5 plus per mil. But back to black, it's good. This is actually one, it's not as popular as it used to be. It was like legendary about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, ironically, when they were giving out free samples to everyone. Everybody is raving about it and ranting about it. And it's only like in the last, not as much now, but like a year ago, I was seeing a lot of guys especially come out because it is considered unisex. I've seen a lot of guys, or have seen a lot of guys coming out saying, yeah, this stuff is awful. This stuff smells terrible. It's just like pure honey and tobacco. It's not really even tobacco. It's just kind of like an herbal essence to like this sickly sweet honey. And it just dries down into like sweet powder. It's like, if I was like a rich 16-year-old girl, this might appeal to me, but I'm an adult working class male, so this is junk. I would never even be caught wearing this. It's pretty awful. It's just so, again, it's just so boring and generic. It's just like your typical super sweet candied honey fragrance that dries down into powder. It's just like, how boring and repetitive is this? Now, to be fair, this has been out for a few years. There are probably things that this is ripped off, but even when it was released, it was definitely not an original fragrance. So, I know we're already running a bit late, but I want to get something that I kind of like in here, and I know there are a few things. So let's do one more, and if it sucks, then I'm still going to call it. If I like it, then good. Man, what are the chances? 0 for 5. Dior Sauvage, man, I'm gonna link up my review of this with Eugene. I think we were the first people on YouTube to actually bash it, back when it was like in the sea of hype when it was first released, and I still stand to it. It's a boring, ozonic, fruity, fresh, clean fragrance, which again is just like the epitome of boringness to me. I'm at that point in my fragrance journey where, and my life as well, where I don't care about compliments. I'm an adult, I'm married happily, I'm not into fresh fragrances, and when I am, I like something that's unique and different. I love Dior. I love Dior's designer range. In fact, I would say Dior's designer range is my favorite designer range in that, probably like the entire designer world. Their catalog for men's designers is excellent. Their catalog for women's designers, excellent. But to me, Sauvage is just such a bore. It's such a yawn. But it's like the biggest fragrance in the world. Every like kind of mid-range department store or maybe upper-end department store that I've been in, walking through the fragrance counter, everyone's pushing Sauvage, like, oh, this is the number one in the world, the number one for men, the number one from Dior, you know, just constantly, nonstop. And I don't know, ironically, I'm a bit too polite to just say, no, I don't want to smell that crap. I'll like take it and I can't. It's just so boring. There's nothing to it. To me, fragrance at this point in my fragrance life is about individuality, it's about creativity, it's about art, it's about something that I enjoy wearing, that I like smelling. And if I get a compliment, that's kind of like a byproduct, you know, that's just something that ends up happening because I'm wearing something I like. And to me, it's just an expensive entry-level fragrance for men, but is just like the biggest thing in the world. If that was my scene, if I was, 5 years ago, 6 years ago when I was first getting into this, I probably would have loved Sauvage, but my taste has changed and, in my opinion, gotten better and more refined, that to me when I smell, it's just like, this is so boring. There's nothing creative. There's nothing interesting. There's nothing unique about it. I want something that smells interesting, creative, artistic, but is well made and high quality. I can't say it's low quality, but it's definitely, I think there are much better fragrances you can get at that kind of over $1 per mil, about what it is in Canada, at least over $1 per mil. It's just such an uninteresting fragrance to me. I know there's people that love it. I know I'm going to get hate for saying it, but I do think it is just another boring, fresh, ozonic, fruity fragrance for men. It will be around forever, but I think in terms of, and I gotta say this carefully because I know there's gonna be, fragrance lovers out there that do like this, but I think for someone who is into that kind of area of fragrance that I am, I can't see many people truly loving this and wearing it. For the most part, I think guys wear it because it gets them compliments, because girls love it, and it's just like, man, okay, it's juvenile. I'm sure there are some fragrance lovers that do enjoy it, but I certainly don't, and I don't know many that actually do. So there you go. Unfortunately, I didn't get any that I liked even a little bit. They're all stinkers to me, but good range. Everything from like kind of mid-range, upper mid-range designer to like higher end niche. So that's good at least. But anyways, let me know what you think of my picks. Agree, disagree, but play kind. That's all I ask. So thanks for watching, everyone, and I'll see you with another underrated gem for summer soon.